Have you ever noticed how someone can make you feel wrong, even when you're completely right? How a single person can twist your memories, your emotions, even your reality until you don't trust your own mind anymore? Because what you're about to hear is exactly how that happens. There was a man who lived through this. His story isn't dramatic on the surface, but psychologically it's a perfect example of what Dr. Robin Stern calls the gaslight effect. It's a slow, subtle psychological erosion, the kind that becomes invisible until you realize you're not the same person you used to be. Let me show you how it unfolded for him. He didn't recognize the early signs. Gaslighting never begins with attacks. It starts with disorientation, tiny edits to reality. A casual, "No, you didn't say that." A soft, "You misheard me." A playful, "You're imagining things." These aren't mistakes. In psychology, this is called reality reframing. Change the memory, and you change the person. He felt it even before he understood it, a small crack in his confidence, the uncomfortable feeling that something was off, even if he couldn't explain why. As days turned into weeks, the pressure increased. Whenever he expressed pain, he was told he was overreacting. When he recalled events clearly, he was told he misunderstood. When he voiced concerns, he was accused of creating problems. This technique has a name: emotional invalidation. And emotional invalidation is one of the strongest predictors of psychological self-doubt. It teaches you that your inner world is unreliable. And like so many victims Stern writes about, he started working harder, not to fix the relationship, but to fix himself. Because gaslighting makes you believe you are the glitch. Slowly, the world inside him began to collapse. He felt ashamed for being too emotional, guilty for being too difficult, and stupid for not remembering correctly. These emotions don't appear by accident. They are manufactured emotions, created by someone who benefits from your confusion. His identity, once steady, began to fracture. He couldn't tell if he was upset because something was wrong or because he was wrong. That confusion is what Stern calls the fog, a psychological cloud where nothing feels solid anymore. He wasn't just doubting events, he was doubting himself. And in that fog, he did what so many people do. He reached for the person causing the storm. It's a painful paradox. The gaslighter becomes the only source of stability. Psychologists refer to this as trauma bonding and dependency conditioning. When your inner compass is shattered, you cling to the nearest voice telling you where to stand. He began to think, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I am the problem. The more he doubted himself, the more he trusted the gaslighter. And in that trust, he lost the ability to trust his own mind. But even in the darkest patterns, the mind fights back. One day, a small doubt appeared, a thought he wasn't supposed to have. Not the doubt the gaslighter planted, but a doubt about the manipulation itself. A memory resurfaced. A contradiction stood out. A moment didn't match their version of the story. This is the awakening stage in the gaslight effect, the moment the psychological spell begins to weaken. Awareness often starts quietly. You don't break free all at once. You simply feel something inside whisper, "No, that's not true." Once he noticed the pattern, the shadow's influence began to shrink. He started testing reality for himself, checking conversations, trusting his memory again, paying attention to emotional discomfort. In psychology, this shift is called reestablishing internal locus of control, taking back authority over your own perceptions. And every time he trusted his intuition over the gaslighter's narrative, the psychological chains loosened. He wasn't fully healed, but he was no longer fully controlled. Then came the moment that changes everything. Not confrontation, not revenge, but clarity. He realized the truth Dr. Stern writes about. Gaslighting works only as long as you participate in the dance. The second you stop accepting their version of reality, the power dynamic collapses. And slowly, quietly, he stepped out of the emotional fog. He didn't need the gaslighter's approval anymore. He didn't need their validation to feel real. He no longer felt guilty for having feelings or memories or boundaries. Healing is never loud. It comes in small recognitions, gentle awakenings, subtle returns of strength. He stepped out of the darkness because he finally understood the core message of the gaslight effect. You cannot heal in a relationship where your reality is constantly denied. And with that realization, he walked forward into self-trust, into emotional independence, into a life where his mind belonged to him again. He wasn't the same person he was before. He was wiser, clearer, grounded in a truth he reclaimed. And maybe if you're watching this, you're beginning to reclaim yours too. This entire cycle, the confusion, the control, the collapse, and the awakening is explained in powerful detail in The Gaslight Effect by Dr. Robin Stern. This has been a short, cinematic review of the psychology behind gaslighting, how someone can slowly take your reality, and how you can take it back.